guys, Stephanie Kojak here and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going into the 7, maybe 8, I don't know, I haven't really decided yet, major lessons that I've learned in the past decade. Yes, they are my lessons and maybe that's not that interesting to you, but if you're watching, perhaps there is something that you could learn, because every single person that you meet, regardless of their background or their belief systems, has something that you don't know. And perhaps there is some information in this video that you can incorporate some way into your life, or you can reject it all completely. Doesn't matter, it's completely up to you. But I do want to touch on the importance for every single person watching this video to reflect back on the past decade, or perhaps even the past year, and pick out the nuggets of gold that exist in all the sorrows, in all the joys, in all the chaos, and all the order. Because if we don't do this, if we don't reflect in some way, either through like meditation or journaling or creating a video like this, you run the risk of deleting that information, of losing it, or even distorting it because it's not recorded properly. So, in saying all that, grab a cup of tea and a snack and we'll get started. Okay, the first lesson is summed up by a really cool quote from Carl Jung, and it's quite simply, the fool is the precursor to the master. And I love this lesson. To me, allowing yourself to be the fool means that you're willing to look silly, unqualified and uncoordinated when you're trying new things. When you were learning to walk, you fell hundreds of times, awkwardly and sometimes hilariously. And that's the nature of learning. You must be the fool before you can be the master. Basically, you must be shit at something before you can get good at something. There is so much you will never learn and much you will never master unless you follow your interests, no matter how small, into the realms of the unknown. And you must be willing to drop your ego in relation to doing those things. For me, there's been so many things in the last 10 years that I was pretty crap at, now I'm pretty good at. For example, for me, boxing comes to mind. When I first think about something that I tried this year that I was afraid to try because everybody in that class was awesome at it and I could barely hit the pad, but I found a gym that I felt very comfortable with and an awesome trainer who knew how to support me during this process, and I allowed myself to be unqualified, uncoordinated, and even look stupid sometimes when I missed the pad or the bag or whatever it is. But eventually, over time, through my willingness to go into the unknown and do something that I was shit at, I emerged on the other side a pretty decent class boxer. Could I get in the ring with someone? No, I'd get pumped. But it has allowed me to develop a sense of self-efficacy and an awareness of how much more I am capable of than I think I am, and how the unknown and that scary feeling falls away in the moment when you are doing something new. You don't have time to think about how shit you are at something. You're fully focused on the next punch or the next duck, or anyway, clearly I'm not good at this yet, but I'm on the road to becoming better. Consider this an invitation, a call to adventure. Yes, you will stumble and yes, you will fall sometimes, but that feeds you new information into the loop. It gives you much more to use. Eventually you will thrive because you're going deeper into relationship with reality, and it will bring you a great sense of focus and practical skills that can shape your future destiny. Don't be afraid to look silly. Don't be afraid to look like a fool. You never know what taking each step on that journey will take you. The second lesson of the 2010s is quite simply, it's okay to change. And in fact, more than that, we were designed as humans to change. First, I just want to talk about the nature of this universe as impermanent, that it's constantly changing. We see it on large scales like seasons rolling into each other, or babies becoming children and teenagers and adults and old people. We see it on a smaller everyday scale like night to day, or even smaller like your first sip of coffee becomes your last sip of coffee. But when we first contemplate the nature of change as an everyday reality, we can become a bit pessimistic and even depressed, or just put that in the too hard pile. But when you really look at it, when you really understand it, it becomes something to celebrate and respect rather than fight against. Because when we really look at change, we begin to see everything as valuable, as sacred, and we can see it with fresh eyes, and we can give it the attention and love and respect that each person or each thing or each moment deserves. And this impermanence and change includes you. It includes us on our journey as human beings. We are ever evolving. Humans are built that way. Just look at our brain and its capacity to learn and synthesize and evaluate and imagine and rewire. Think back to when you were 20 or even 15 or whatever age, and think of something that you longed for. You wanted it so bad that it hurt, and now you laugh at yourself for wanting it. Chances are, if you had that thing now and it was permanent, fixed, could not change it ever, you'd be feeling a sense of regret at some scale. Because I know I would, if I'm being honest. As we grow up, we meet new people, we have new experiences, and we're exposed to new data. If we don't allow this information to change us, we will experience the same day or week over and over again and call it a life. But if we allow this new information to be considered and even used, we will change. And that's more than okay. That's when we know we're in harmony with the dynamics of a thriving and ever-changing cosmos. That is simply the way that it is meant to be. It is okay. More than that, it is necessary to change. And don't let anyone make you feel bad for doing it. Okay, so I'm probably going to say this about every single lesson, but this is my favorite one. And the quote that sums it up perfectly is by Buddha or maybe Lao Tzu, I'm not sure. But the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon. And I've come to find that this was by far the most uplifting lesson I've learned to date. Here I'm referring to the right for each individual to embark on a spiritual journey. And that means a lifestyle that brings growth and purpose and a deep sense of peace and joy into your life. This could look like following a religion or a philosophy, or it could be something that's harder to label. It doesn't matter. As Bob Marley said, as long as you're not hurting anyone, then you're alright with me. All the practices we choose to follow are signposts, leading us to an experience of the divine and a deeper knowing of ourselves. And unfortunately, we get overly attached to the signpost rather than the destination itself or the experience itself. We are all just learning, all coming to our own conclusions of this world based on our experience of it. It cannot be the same. It's incredibly foolish to believe that we are all meant to think, speak, and act from the same belief system. Not to mention boring. Over 7 billion people on this planet, each with their own intrinsic philosophy fused with beliefs and attitudes that is consistently reinforced in their reality by a powerful allegiance to it. Agreement upon personal truths then turns out to be, I'm predicting, somewhere in the vicinity of the probability of the universe being the result of random function, which is like, 10 to the 8,000? It's probably, or safe to say that it's not going to happen. But it is possible to agree on impersonal truth. That is the truth that is not bound by dogma and belief, or the pool of financial and personal gain. This truth belongs to all things and all life. A truth that we're entitled to by the very nature of our existence. The truth of love and compassion and every being's right to take a peaceful path towards the highest expression of themselves, possible for them in this lifetime. Mineral, plant, insect, animal, human, alien, I don't care. Everybody's in. We are all serving the path of love in our own way. Separation, conflict, competition all cause us to question our own worth, when our worth is defined by each breath we take. Yeah, that's it. Plainly, simply, nothing less, everything more. All right, the next lesson. Be weird, aka be yourself. And this lesson I wrote before, like I had a title for it, I could really conceptualize it. It was really feeling based, and I had never like put it into, I guess, articulate words. So it was really therapeutic for me to do this one. And it's one of the most powerful confrontational lessons that I've had to learn, but it has been the most empowering one. For so many years of my life, I simply wasn't my whole self in front of people. It wasn't that I was being fake. It was that I hid my creative and spiritual nature away from my family and friends because, quite simply, no one else was speaking or acting the way that I was thinking and feeling and dreaming. And I wanted to fit in. So I would get lost instead in books and daydreams that fed my soul just enough to keep it quiet. But several years ago, I lost my brother when I was 24 years old. And he happened to be the only person in the world who knew who I really was. He knew all of me and he loved all of me. So after he passed, I decided that life is ridiculously short and it's an absolute tragedy to live it in the fear of the negative judgment and opinions of other people. So, in the past few years, and this channel is a reflection of this, I've chose to honor the urge to create and express what stirs within me. And this invoked a lot of fear, to be honest, including being misunderstood and even rejected. But the payoff of being myself and releasing my work was, or has been, profoundly a positive experience. Yes, there are a few friends who rejected and misunderstood it, but all that did was create space for other people chasing their dreams and being unapologetically themselves to show up in my life. And that's been like the coolest outcome of that. It was hard at the time to get this reaction, and it did create much anger and frustration on my part, but that was just another opportunity to learn and to grow and to really pragmatically experience what it means to honor yourself, to be yourself and walk your own path. So if you're still afraid or just hesitant about releasing your work into the world, contemplate the words of Elizabeth Gilbert in Big Magic. She writes, "Let people have their opinions. More than that, let people be in love with their opinions, just as you and I are in love with ours. But never delude yourself into believing that you require someone else's blessing or even their comprehension in order to make your own creative work." Or whatever being yourself looks like in your life. It could simply be choosing not to go out drinking every weekend to take care of your health and fitness, or prioritize a goal that you're trying to smash out. And lastly, she writes, "Remember what W.C. Fields said about this point. It ain't what they call you, it's what you answer to." Actually, don't even bother answering. Just keep doing your thing, you weirdo. Okay guys, we've come to the end of the lessons that the 2010s have held for me. I hope that you find it useful in some way, and if you did, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already, and leave your lessons down in the comment section down below, or even just message me personally. I love hearing from you guys, and without a doubt, my clients and some of the viewers here on this channel have been the biggest inspiration for me evolving on my own journey, because if it wasn't for you guys, it's almost like I'd have no accountability. So I want to thank you so much for being part of my journey this past year on YouTube. It's been so much fun, and it's given me a sense of deep meaning and purpose and even responsibility in my life. And without that, no, I don't even know where I'd be. So I just want to say thank you so much for being a subscriber or a viewer or a liker or a commenter. I love you all so much, and all my love is with you into the new decade. And I'll see you in the new year, guys. Bye.